Have you ever stopped to wonder why some people's lives fall apart while others rise above the same challenges? It's not luck. It's not fate. It's choices. Every mistake leaves behind a trail, and if you look closely, you can see the signs before you step into the same trap. The truth is, you don't need to burn your own hand on the fire to know it hurts. You can learn by watching, by listening, by paying attention to the mistakes others made before you. That is the difference between living blindly and living with wisdom. Think about the people you've seen waste years chasing shortcuts that never work. Think about the ones who surrounded themselves with negativity until it became their identity. Think about the people who gave up just before life was about to reward them. These mistakes aren't just theirs, they are warnings for you. They are lessons placed in your path, waiting to be picked up. If you ignore them, you may repeat them. If you embrace them, you move faster, stronger, and wiser. That's the gift of observation, the ability to accelerate your growth without doubling the pain. Most people believe mistakes are only valuable when they are personal, but that's a dangerous lie. Life is too short to only learn by falling down every time. Imagine if you could borrow decades of wisdom by simply noticing where others stumbled. Imagine if you could compress years of trial and error into moments of clarity. You don't have to live every failure to claim the lesson. You just need the courage to pay attention and the humility to accept that someone else's fall could be your saving grace. Here's the truth. Pride keeps people blind. Pride whispers, I'll figure it out myself. But wisdom whispers, look around. The answers are already here. When you let go of the need to experience every wound firsthand, you unlock freedom. You save time. You conserve energy. You protect your spirit from scars you don't need to carry. And instead of wasting years in regret, you move with a sharper vision toward the life you were meant to live. So why should you keep listening? Because what I'm about to share isn't just another motivational idea. It's survival knowledge. It's about building a foundation that keeps you steady when the world shakes. It's about unlocking the strength to avoid the traps that swallow so many before you. It's about rising higher because you had the wisdom to learn not just from your own mistakes, but from the mistakes of everyone around you. By the end of this, you'll feel clarity where there was confusion. You'll feel courage where there was hesitation. And most of all, you'll feel the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are not doomed to repeat the same cycles others couldn't escape. Stay with me, because this isn't about judgment. It's about freedom. It's about giving you the power to step forward without dragging the weight of preventable mistakes on your back. This is your chance to break free from patterns that ruin dreams, to rise above the noise and to claim the wisdom that so many people leave unused. Watch carefully, listen closely, because the mistakes that destroyed others could be the very lessons that save you. If you look closely, every mistake carries a hidden message. It's not just failure, it's instruction written in bold letters, waiting for the eyes that dare to read it. When people give up too soon, the message says patience is power. When they chase money without meaning, the message says purpose matters more than possessions. When they silence their own voice to please the crowd, the message says authenticity is freedom. These messages are everywhere, surrounding you, shaping the world you walk in. The only question is whether you will pause long enough to notice them. The tragedy is that most people walk through life blindfolded. They see someone else's downfall and call it bad luck. They see a broken relationship and shrug it off as chance. They see someone's career collapse and say it just wasn't meant to be. But the truth is never random. Patterns repeat because choices repeat. And when you understand the pattern, you unlock the power to break it. You stop being a prisoner of circumstances and start becoming an architect of your own destiny. That is the real difference between people who rise and people who remain stuck. The ability to read life like a book and extract the lessons written in someone else's story. It takes courage to admit this, because deep down, you might already see where others failed, and you might recognize traces of those same habits inside yourself. That recognition can feel heavy, even painful. But that pain is a gift. It's the warning bell telling you it's time to change. Don't turn away from it. Don't numb it with distractions. Let it wake you up. Because once you see the truth, you can no longer walk blindly into the same mistakes. Awareness itself becomes a shield protecting you from battles you don't need to fight. There is power in silence. When you observe, you learn what words can't teach. Watch how stress destroys those who refuse rest. Watch how bitterness consumes those who cling to grudges. Watch how arrogance isolates those who believe they know it all. And as you watch, promise yourself You will not inherit these same fates. You don't need to taste the poison to know it kills. You only need the wisdom to see the effect it had on others and the strength to choose a different path. Think of what this means for your future. Every time you absorb the lesson from someone else's mistake, you cut years off your learning curve. You build resilience without enduring unnecessary damage. You move with clarity while others wander in circles. And slowly you become someone different, someone who rises not by chance but by choice. Life is not about collecting scars just to prove you survived. It's about walking with awareness so you thrive. So when you see someone fall, don't laugh, don't judge, don't dismiss it. Instead, let it sharpen you, let it shape you, let it remind you of the direction you refuse to go. And in that moment, thank them silently because their mistake just gave you wisdom without cost. Every failure you witness is a deposit into your bank of insight if you have the humility to accept it. The more you see, the more responsibility you carry. Because once you know the truth, excuses lose their power. You can't pretend you didn't see the warning signs. You can't pretend you weren't shown the way. And that's not a burden. It's liberation. It means you are no longer chained to ignorance. It means you hold the keys to a future that is lighter, brighter, and stronger than the past. All because you chose to learn from what others ignored. The greatest advantage you can ever gain is the discipline of paying attention. Not just hearing words, but truly observing what choices create growth and what choices create destruction. When someone spends their life chasing approval, you see how empty it leaves them. When someone hides their pain instead of facing it, you see how it grows into something heavier. When someone ignores their health until it breaks, you see how regret becomes their only companion. These are not random tragedies. They are warnings. And every warning you notice is a chance to change your own path before it's too late. Awareness is like a mirror. The more you look at others, the more you begin to see yourself. You notice their impatience and it reveals your own. You see their excuses and you recognize the ones you've been telling yourself. You witness their fear holding them back and you feel the echo of your own hesitation. This is not meant to shame you. It is meant to wake you up. Because once you see your reflection in someone else's mistake, you have the opportunity to rewrite your story. You no longer have to be blind to your habits. You can make a choice right now to rise above them. But let's be honest, awareness without action means nothing. Many people know the truth, but do nothing with it. They nod when they hear a lesson, but then walk straight into the same traps. Why? Because change is uncomfortable. It's easier to repeat what feels familiar than to build a new path. But if you stay trapped in comfort, you inherit the same pain you already witnessed in others. And deep down, you know that's not the life you want. The discomfort of growth is temporary, but the pain of regret lasts forever. This is where courage becomes the dividing line. The courage to not just see mistakes, but to step away from them. The courage to break habits that have followed you for years. The courage to risk looking different, sounding different, and living differently than the crowd. Because the crowd is often headed toward the same cliff, and following them means falling with them. Wisdom means having the strength to step aside even when it feels lonely, even when it feels uncertain. Every mistake you avoid becomes a stepping stone toward your higher self. Each lesson you apply carves away another layer of weakness, another layer of doubt, another layer of fear. And slowly you begin to transform. You begin to see how much power you have always held. You begin to realize that your life does not need to repeat the same cycles you were born into. You are not bound by the choices of your family, your friends, or your past. You are free to create something different, something stronger, something that carries meaning. But freedom requires responsibility. When you know better, you must do better. Every time you walk away from an easy mistake, you grow stronger. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you grow wiser. And every time you learn from someone else's fall, you rise higher without wasting years in the valley. That is how you honor the lessons life has placed in front of you. Not by ignoring them, not by repeating them, but by transforming them into fuel that pushes you forward. The choice is always in your hands. You can dismiss what you see and drift into the same mistakes, or you can accept the gift hidden in plain sight and rise into the person you were meant to become. The question is not whether the lessons are there. The question is whether you are willing to act on them. The truth is, life is always teaching, but not everyone is listening. Mistakes echo like warnings in the distance, yet most people cover their ears because they don't want to face the discomfort of change. They see failure around them, but convince themselves it won't happen to them. They watch someone lose everything to pride, but they still cling to their own ego. They see someone trapped in procrastination, yet they keep postponing their own dreams. This blindness is not ignorance, it's avoidance. And avoidance is the silent killer of potential. You don't have to live that way. You can choose to see what others refuse to see. You can choose to face the raw truth before it hardens into regret. Every mistake you witness is a gift, a mirror, a prophecy of what could happen if you choose the same path. And when you truly let that sink in, it becomes impossible to walk carelessly. Awareness sharpens you. It forces you to hold yourself accountable. It awakens a hunger inside you to not waste your time, your energy, your chance. What keeps most people trapped is the belief that failure is distant, that consequences will somehow skip them. Consequences never skip. They only wait. And the longer you wait to change, the heavier the price becomes. Look at the lives around you that have been wasted by delay, by excuses, by fear. Do you really want that to be your future? Do you really want to wake up one day realizing you ignored every warning life gave you? That is the pain you must refuse to accept. That is the fate you must rise against. There is a different way. You can walk with your eyes wide open. You can see every downfall as a signpost pointing you toward a stronger direction. You can learn faster, move faster, and live lighter than those who refuse to listen. And when you do, something incredible happens. You begin to step into a power that feels unshakable because you know you are not stumbling blindly. You know you are making choices rooted in wisdom. You know that while others repeat the same cycles, you are building something unbreakable. That strength is not arrogance. It is clarity. It is the calm confidence that comes from knowing you have taken responsibility for your growth. And that clarity changes how you move through the world. You stop rushing. You stop chasing things that don't matter. You stop living to impress others. Instead, you live to build, to rise, to fulfill the potential you've always carried. And the more you do this, the more unstoppable you become. But understand this, clarity demands sacrifice. You cannot learn from mistakes and still cling to the habits that caused them. You cannot embrace wisdom and still hold on to denial. You cannot rise and stay the same. Something has to break for something greater to be built. And though it may feel uncomfortable, that discomfort is proof that transformation is taking place. The question is not whether you will face mistakes, yours or someone else's. The question is whether you will have the courage to extract the lesson, to carry it forward, and to let it reshape who you are becoming. Every downfall you see is a chance for you to rise. Every failure around you is an invitation for your strength. If you accept that invitation, there is no limit to how far you can go. Growth demands honesty, and honesty is one of the hardest battles you will ever fight. It's easy to point at someone else's mistakes and see where they went wrong, but it takes courage to look within and admit where you are walking the same road. The truth is, we all carry blind spots, habits we excuse, weaknesses we hide. But when you see those same flaws destroy others, you are given a choice. Deny it and keep drifting, or confront it and finally change. That confrontation is not weakness. It is the birthplace of transformation. Every downfall you witness in another person is a mirror reflecting a possibility in your own life. When you see someone lose opportunities because they were afraid to take a risk, ask yourself where fear is holding you back. When you see someone trapped by anger, notice where you still allow bitterness to live inside you. When you see someone waste years waiting for the perfect moment, recognize where you are postponing your own calling. Life will always place these reflections around you. They are not accidents. They are lessons, invitations, challenges for your spirit to rise. But facing them requires more than awareness. It requires decision. A decision to break cycles instead of repeating them. A decision to live differently, even when it feels uncomfortable. A decision to stop using the excuse of someday and to act now. Most people never make that decision, and that is why their lives look exactly like the mistakes they once promised themselves they would never repeat. Do not let that be your story. Choose the harder road now so you can walk the freer road later. There's a strange kind of peace that comes when you decide to change. At first, it feels heavy because you're letting go of comfort, of patterns, of identities you've carried for years. But slowly you begin to breathe differently. You feel lighter. You feel stronger. You realize that what you thought was safety was actually a cage. And by breaking it, you unlock a freedom you never imagined. This is the reward of learning from mistakes. yours or others. You don't just avoid pain. You gain clarity, strength, and vision. You gain the power to move forward without chains. And here is something most people never realize. When you learn from someone else's downfall, you honor them. You transform their wasted years into wisdom that fuels your own progress. Their story, no matter how painful, does not go unused. It becomes part of the fire that pushes you higher. That is how humanity grows. Through shared lessons, through patterns that teach, through the courage of those willing to see. If you have the humility to learn, you do not only save yourself, you carry forward the wisdom of countless lives before you. But wisdom unclaimed is wasted. It doesn't matter how many mistakes you witness if you walk away unchanged. The opportunity is in your hands right now, in this moment. Will you dismiss it and keep living on autopilot, or will you let it penetrate, reshape, and drive you to act differently? The choice you make today will decide whether you repeat the same story or write a new one. Life is not asking for perfection. It is asking for awareness, courage, and action. If you can give it those three, you will rise above the traps that have held so many back. And once you rise, you will never see mistakes the same way again. They will no longer be chains. They will be fuel. The moment you decide to turn mistakes into lessons is the moment your life begins to shift. It is as if you step onto a higher ground where the fog clears and you can finally see where each road leads. You no longer walk blindly into traps. You no longer confuse distraction with purpose. You no longer waste energy chasing what was never meant to fulfill you. Instead, you begin to move with intention, with clarity, with a sense of strength that others can feel when you enter the room. That strength is not born from never failing. It is born from refusing to repeat the failures you've already witnessed. People often ask why some individuals seem to move faster, why they succeed while others struggle. The answer is not intelligence, talent, or luck. The answer is awareness. They noticed what others ignored. They paid attention to what destroyed others and made the decision not to let it destroy them. That is the power of perspective, the ability to compress years of learning into moments of clarity. When you live this way, you begin to walk a different timeline. While others spend decades repairing the damage of repeating mistakes, you spend those years building, creating, and rising. But make no mistake, this path requires vigilance. It is easy to forget the lessons when life feels comfortable. It is easy to slip back into denial when things seem fine on the surface. That is why you must remind yourself constantly of what you've seen, of the patterns you've recognized, of the pain you've chosen to avoid. Every downfall you observe should become etched in your memory, not as fear, but as wisdom. Let those reminders keep you sharp, focused, and humble enough to keep growing. Humility is at the heart of transformation. Because to truly learn, you must accept that you don't have all the answers. You must accept that someone else's mistakes can teach you just as much as your own. You must accept that you are capable of repeating the same failures if you don't remain awake and intentional. Humility doesn't weaken you. It saves you. It keeps your mind open. It keeps your heart teachable. And a teachable heart will always rise higher than a prideful one. When you live with this level of awareness, you begin to create a ripple effect. The choices you make inspire others to rethink their own. The way you carry yourself becomes a silent reminder to those still lost in cycles. And slowly, without even realizing it, you become a living example of transformation. Not because you never fell, but because you refuse to ignore the signs that others fell before you. That example is more powerful than any speech, more impactful than any advice. It is proof that a different life is possible. And here lies your greatest responsibility: to not waste the wisdom you've been given, to honor the lessons that life has placed in front of you, to build something greater with the knowledge you've collected. Because if you turn away, if you ignore what you've seen, you will suffer the same fate as those who came before. But if you embrace it, if you commit to acting on it, there is no limit to the life you can create. You have been shown the way. Now it is on you to walk it with courage, discipline, and unshakable resolve. Strength grows every time you resist the temptation to repeat what you already know will lead to pain. It grows when you catch yourself in the moment of weakness and choose differently. It grows when you face the same decision that destroyed someone else and walk the opposite way. This is how character is built, not through words, but through choices. Each time you honor the lessons you've seen, you fortify yourself. Each time you apply wisdom instead of impulse, you take another step toward the life you were meant to live. But let's be clear, this path will test you. The same mistakes that swallowed others will appear in front of you. The same shortcuts, the same distractions, the same false promises will call your name. They will disguise themselves as opportunities. They will whisper that no harm will come this time. And in those moments, you will face the same decision every great person has faced, the decision to repeat the cycle or to rise above it. That choice is the battlefield where your future is won or lost. The beauty is that you already know how the wrong choice ends. You've seen it. You've watched it play out in others' lives. You've seen the toll it takes, the years it steals, the dreams it buries. That knowledge is your advantage. Most people walk into mistakes blindly, unaware of the consequences until it's too late. But you, if you stay awake, if you remember what you've seen, you hold the power to step away before the damage is done. That awareness is not just protection, it is empowerment. Every time you say no to a mistake, you are saying yes to your future. Every time you resist repeating the same patterns, you are creating new ones that will carry you higher. And those new patterns, repeated over time, become your character. They become the invisible armor that protects you from being pulled back into the same traps. They become the proof that you are no longer bound by the same chains that held others down. This is what separates the ones who rise from the ones who remain stuck. It's not about never falling. It's about refusing to fall in the same way over and over again. It's about learning, adapting, and evolving faster than life can knock you down. That is how you gain momentum. That is how you begin to move with a force that nothing can hold back. And when you live this way, you start to notice something powerful. Mistakes no longer intimidate you. You don't fear them because you know they can't define you. You don't avoid them out of weakness, but out of strength. You carry the quiet confidence of someone who knows the path ahead because you studied the paths behind. And that confidence is contagious. It spreads to everyone around you. It shows them that it's possible to rise. It proves that awareness and courage are enough to rewrite any story. So hold this truth close. You are not bound to repeat what you've seen. You are not doomed to live in the shadows of others' failures. You are free to choose differently, to act with wisdom, to carve a future that reflects who you truly are. Every decision you make is proof that you either break the cycle or extend it. And with every choice, you are building either regret or freedom. Choose freedom, choose strength, choose to rise. Every step you take toward wisdom demands that you leave behind the comfort of excuses. Excuses are what keep people trapped in cycles they swore they would never repeat. They tell themselves they didn't have the time, they didn't have the resources, they didn't have the chance. But the truth is never about resources. It's about choices. When you strip away the excuses, you are left with the raw reality that life offers you lessons every day, and whether you grow or remain the same depends entirely on what you choose to do with them. Mistakes only have power over you if you refuse to face them. The moment you acknowledge the lesson, their grip weakens. The moment you decide to change, their control breaks. And when you continue to apply that wisdom again and again, mistakes no longer define you, they refine you. They become stepping stones, not stumbling blocks. They become evidence that you are capable of transforming pain into progress, and there is no greater power than that. But transformation requires more than recognition. It requires discipline. Discipline to act differently even when it feels unnatural. Discipline to stay consistent even when no one is watching. Discipline to honor the lessons life has already given you without demanding that pain teach them twice. Discipline is the bridge between wisdom and results. Without it, all the lessons you've collected remain just knowledge. With it, they become the fuel that propels you into a future others only dream of. Think about what this means. Every time you choose discipline over impulse, you separate yourself from the crowd. Every time you commit to growth instead of comfort, you step into the rare space where breakthroughs happen. Every time you apply the lessons instead of ignoring them, you rewrite your destiny. That is how ordinary people become extraordinary. Not because life handed them an easier path, but because they refused to repeat the mistakes that destroyed others. And as you walk this path, you begin to notice the quiet strength it gives you. You don't need to boast about your choices. You don't need to prove your wisdom to anyone. The results speak for themselves. The peace you carry, the progress you build, the clarity you embody, these become undeniable evidence of a life lived with intention. And the people around you, even if they don't say it, will feel the difference. They will see the stability in your steps, the fire in your eyes, the resilience in your spirit. That is the power of discipline applied to wisdom. Still, remember this, the world will try to pull you back. It will tempt you with the same distractions, the same shortcuts, the same empty promises that have fooled countless others. But you are not countless. You are awake. You have seen the outcome of those choices. You have witnessed the destruction they bring. And because of that, you have no excuse to repeat them. Every temptation becomes weaker when you hold the memory of its consequences. Every distraction loses power when you remember where it leads. Your life is too valuable to waste on cycles that have already proven their emptiness. You don't need to test every mistake to know the cost. You already know. And because you know, you are free. Free to rise above them. Free to build something stronger. Free to create a future rooted in wisdom rather than regret. That freedom is not given, it is chosen. And with every choice you make, you decide whether you stay bound or you step into the life you are always capable of living. The strength you are building is not only for you, it will echo into the lives of everyone you touch. When you rise above the mistakes that swallowed others, you become living proof that change is possible. You become the example that whispers to someone else, you don't have to fall the same way, you don't have to repeat the same pain. And even if you never speak a word, your life becomes the loudest message. The way you carry yourself, the decisions you make, the consistency you show, all of it becomes a beacon for those still trapped in the dark. But understand this, influence carries responsibility. If you've seen the damage that comes from certain choices, you can no longer pretend you don't know. You can no longer live carelessly and expect your life to inspire others. People are always watching, whether you realize it or not. They see how you respond under pressure. They see how you treat people when no one is keeping score. They see whether you fold to the same mistakes or rise above them. And when you rise, you give them permission to rise too. The greatest leaders are not the ones who avoided failure. They are the ones who studied it, learned from it, and refused to let it define them. They took the lessons written in others' scars and used them as maps to navigate their own journeys. And because they did, they carry wisdom far beyond their years. That same power is available to you if you are willing to accept it. You don't need to wait for a title, a platform, or recognition. The moment you choose to live differently, you already lead by example. This is why every choice matters, not just for your own life, but for the countless lives that are silently influenced by your presence. Every time you break a cycle, you show someone else that cycles can be broken. Every time you rise above a mistake, you plant the seed of belief in another person who thought they couldn't change. Your courage becomes their courage. Your discipline becomes their inspiration. And slowly, without even realizing it, you start to shift the world around you. But it all begins with one decision: to stop treating mistakes as random events and start treating them as instructions. The people who waste their lives are not those who fail. It is those who fail to learn. You are not one of them. You have seen too much, you have recognized too much, and you have been awakened too deeply to ignore the lessons in front of you. Now is the time to use them. Now is the time to transform them into action, into discipline, into lasting change. And here is the deeper truth. When you live this way, you will experience a peace that most people never know. It is the peace of clarity, the peace of walking in alignment with wisdom, the peace of knowing you are not bound to repeat the mistakes of the past. That peace is not fragile. It is rooted, unshakable, and alive inside you. It will carry you through storms. It will keep you steady under pressure. And it will remind you that your path is stronger than anything that tries to break it. You are not here to repeat the cycles of those before you. You are here to break them. You are here to rise higher, to live wiser, and to build a future that others can look to as proof that mistakes are not the end. They are the beginning of transformation. The cycles you break today become the foundation for the freedom you experience tomorrow. Every decision you make not to repeat a mistake strengthens the roots of the life you are building. And the deeper those roots grow, the more storms you can withstand. You don't rise by avoiding difficulty. You rise by preparing your soul so deeply that difficulty cannot shake you. That preparation comes from awareness, from reflection, from the discipline of learning from every mistake, whether it was yours or someone else's. When you embrace this way of living, your perspective changes. You no longer envy people who seem ahead of you, because you know comparison blinds you to the lessons in your own path. You no longer resent challenges, because you understand each obstacle is a chance to apply what you've learned. You no longer feel trapped by fear, because fear loses its grip when you see clearly where it leads. This clarity becomes your compass. It doesn't mean the journey is easy, but it ensures the direction is right. And direction matters more than speed. What destroys most people is not lack of effort. It is movement without wisdom. They run in circles, repeating the same choices, expecting new results. They waste their energy trying to escape consequences instead of facing the truth that created them. But you are not bound to that cycle. You have the ability to step out, to choose with intention, to move with purpose. And once you do, you discover the incredible power of alignment, where your actions, your mindset, and your vision finally move in the same direction. This alignment is what creates momentum, and momentum is one of the most powerful forces in life. Once you build it, it carries you further than effort alone ever could. But momentum only comes when you stop stumbling over the same mistakes. It comes when you consistently apply the wisdom you've gained, when you refuse to keep resetting your progress because of avoidable choices. That consistency compounds. It builds strength. It builds confidence. It builds a life that no mistake can easily dismantle. But let this truth sink in, momentum can also work against you. Repeat the wrong lessons, and you create a downward spiral. One poor choice becomes a habit, and a habit becomes a lifestyle. That is how people lose themselves. Not with one catastrophic failure, but with small mistakes, ignored until they harden into destiny. That is why awareness is everything. That is why every choice matters, because each one pushes you closer to freedom or deeper into regret. So you must stay awake. You must stay intentional. You must remind yourself daily that every mistake you've seen carries a cost, and you cannot afford to pay it with your future. When you carry that awareness into every decision, you begin to live differently. You think differently. You move differently. And the world around you begins to respond to that difference. Opportunities open, relationships deepen, and your spirit grows stronger. Not because life became easier, but because you became wiser. This wisdom is your shield. It is your guide. It is the invisible strength that allows you to walk into uncertainty without fear. You know what paths to avoid. You know what traps to step around. You know how to move forward when others freeze. That is the reward of learning from mistakes. You turn what once destroyed people into the very power that builds you. And with that power, you are no longer just surviving. You are rising. Rising is not about being untouched by mistakes. It is about transforming the weight of those mistakes into strength that propels you forward. Every failure you refuse to repeat becomes fuel. Every cycle you break becomes proof of your resilience. Every lesson you embrace becomes a stone in the foundation of the life you are building. This is how you grow unshakable, not by avoiding storms, but by learning from every storm that has passed before you. The people who remain stuck are not weaker than you. They are simply unwilling to listen. They close their eyes to the warnings around them. They see others collapse under the pressure of shortcuts, but they still chase shortcuts. They see families torn apart by neglect, but they still neglect their priorities. They see dreams vanish under the weight of procrastination, but they still postpone their own calling. This blindness is a choice, and so is awareness. You have the choice to keep your eyes open, to absorb what life is showing you, and to act with the courage to change. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move despite it. Fear tells you it's safer to follow the same path as everyone else, even if you know where it leads. Fear tells you change will be too hard, too uncomfortable, too uncertain. But fear never tells you the truth about regret. Regret is heavier than discomfort. Regret is longer than fear. Regret lasts a lifetime, while discomfort only lasts a season. And when you learn from mistakes, yours or others, you are choosing the lighter burden. You are choosing growth instead of regret. The mind always looks for the easy way, but the easy way rarely builds strength. Mistakes prove this. Look at the people who saw shortcuts. They ended up further behind. Look at those who tried to avoid pain. They carried even greater pain later. The easy way is an illusion, and mistakes are constant reminders that the hard way is the only way that lasts. When you see this truth clearly, you stop searching for shortcuts. You start embracing the process. You understand that the weight you carry today is shaping the strength you need for tomorrow. And as you continue forward, you notice something profound. The lessons you once resisted now become your allies. The pain you once feared now fuels your progress. The clarity you once lacked now directs your every step. You begin to feel an inner calm because you know where certain choices lead and you refuse to walk blindly into them. That calm is not laziness, it is power. It is the quiet strength of someone who has learned, adapted, and risen above. This strength becomes your foundation. It cannot be taken from you because it was built in the fires of awareness and discipline. Others may stumble into the same mistakes, but you will walk differently. Others may repeat the same cycles, but you will break them. Others may waste their years in regret, but you will rise into a life of freedom. This is the gift of learning, not just surviving mistakes, but transforming them into wisdom that no one can take away. You are not defined by the mistakes around you. You are defined by how you respond to them. And every time you choose differently, every time you apply the lesson, every time you rise instead of fall, you carve a new identity. You become someone who doesn't just live, you lead, you inspire, and you prove that growth is always possible. Leadership is not about titles, money, or recognition. It is about responsibility. It is about being awake when others sleep, about paying attention when others ignore, about breaking patterns when others keep repeating them. The one who learns from mistakes, whether their own or those around them, becomes a leader by default, not because they seek control, but because they carry wisdom others cannot deny. People follow those who see clearly. People trust those who walk with intention. People are drawn to those who refuse to stumble blindly where everyone else has fallen. You were not meant to simply blend in with the crowd. You were meant to rise above it. And rising does not mean standing on top of others. It means lifting yourself to a higher level of awareness where you no longer fall victim to the same traps that destroy lives. This higher place is not for the careless. It is for the disciplined. It is for those who choose the pain of growth over the pain of regret. It is for those who are willing to listen, to reflect, and to act with courage. That is where true strength is found. When you commit to this path, you start to notice how different your choices feel. You no longer chase what looks good in the moment. You build what lasts in the long run. You no longer settle for temporary relief. You fight for permanent freedom. You no longer see mistakes as signs of failure. You see them as signposts pointing toward wisdom. This change in perspective transforms everything. Suddenly, challenges don't break you. They build you. Loss doesn't define you. It refines you. And setbacks don't stop you. They sharpen you. There's a hidden power in mistakes if you refuse to ignore them. They reveal what does not work. They show where shortcuts lead. They expose the cost of pride, laziness, and neglect. If you are humble enough to pay attention, mistakes become the greatest teachers you will ever have. But the price of ignoring them is high. Ignore them, and you will pay with your peace. Ignore them, and you will pay with your future. Ignore them, and you will pay with your dreams. This is why learning is not optional. It is survival. And survival alone is not enough for you. You were not made just to survive. You were made to grow, to rise, to expand into the best version of yourself. Every time you learn from mistakes, you are proving to yourself that you refuse to live below your potential. You are proving that your past will not define your future. You are proving that your mind, your discipline, and your courage are stronger than your circumstances. That proof builds a fire inside you, a fire that no failure can extinguish. That fire becomes your identity. You are no longer the person who repeats cycles. You are no longer the person who looks back in regret. You are no longer the person who lets fear dictate their choices. You are the one who sees the lessons, takes the lessons, and turns them into strength. And when others look at you, they will not just see your success. They will see your resilience. They will see your clarity. They will see your courage. They will see what it looks like when a human being refuses to waste the wisdom that life has freely offered. This is who you are becoming. Not someone who avoids mistakes, but someone who transforms them. Not someone who is controlled by fear, but someone who walks with wisdom. Not someone who settles, but someone who rises. And that choice to rise is what separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. Extraordinary does not happen by chance. It is born in the moments when you choose awareness over ignorance, growth over comfort, wisdom over pride. It is built in the quiet choices no one sees, the decisions you make when no one is watching, the discipline you practice when excuses will be easier. Each of these moments is small on its own, but together they create a life of unstoppable strength. And the secret to this strength is not perfection, it is learning. It is refusing to repeat what you already know will break you. There is power in saying to yourself, I will not waste this lesson. That single decision can shift the entire direction of your life, because most people do waste their lessons. They complain, but they do not change. They regret, but they do not adapt. They see patterns, but they keep walking straight into them. They know where shortcuts lead, but they chase them anyway. And so their lives become cycles, predictable, heavy, filled with unnecessary pain. But you do not have to live like that. You can break the cycle. You can be the one who listens, the one who acts, the one who grows. Growth is not easy. It would demand that you confront yourself, that you face truths you would rather ignore, that you admit when you are wrong. But growth is worth it, because every time you grow, you rise higher above the mistakes that hold others down. You create space between who you used to be and who you are becoming. And that space is freedom. Freedom from regret, freedom from repeating the same painful story, freedom from living beneath your potential. But freedom is not handed to you. It is earned in the trenches of discipline. It is earned when you choose to walk away from what destroyed others, even when it looks tempting. It is earned when you reject excuses and face the truth about where certain choices lead. It is earned when you turn pain into fuel instead of letting it become an anchor. Every time you make these choices, you are rewriting your future. You are proving that your destiny is stronger than your past. There is something unshakable about a person who has learned. They walk differently. They speak differently. They carry an energy that others can feel. It is not arrogance. It is clarity. It is the calm strength of someone who knows where they are going and refuses to be pulled off course. This energy draws people in. It inspires trust. It sparks change. Because when you rise above mistakes, you show others that they can rise too. And this is bigger than just you. The lessons you learn are not only for your benefit. They ripple outward. They protect your family. They influence your friends. They inspire strangers who may never know your name. Every time you choose differently, you are not just shaping your own life. You are shaping the lives of those around you. You are breaking cycles that could have trapped generations. You are proving that change is possible. You are leaving behind a trail of wisdom that others can follow. This is the legacy of learning, not wealth, not recognition, not applause, but the quiet, unstoppable impact of a life lived with wisdom. A life where mistakes do not define you, but refine you. A life where you rise above patterns that destroy others and turn them into power that builds you. A life where your choices echo beyond your years, proving that transformation is always possible. Transformation is not a sudden explosion of change. It is the steady, relentless accumulation of choices that honor the lessons life has already revealed. Each day you are given chances to prove what you have learned. Each day you are offered opportunities to walk differently than before. These moments may feel small, almost invisible, but they shape your entire future. Ignore them and you drift back into old cycles. Embrace them and you step into a life that reflects wisdom instead of regret. What keeps most people trapped is not a lack of knowledge. They know the consequences of certain choices. They have seen the pain that follows neglect, shortcuts, and pride. But knowing is not the same as acting. Knowledge without action is wasted potential. It sits heavy in the mind, producing guilt instead of growth. But when you act on what you've learned, that knowledge turns into power. It sharpens your vision. It builds trust in yourself. It transforms fear into clarity. Clarity is one of the greatest rewards of learning. When you truly learn from mistakes, your mind becomes sharper. You no longer live in constant confusion, wondering what went wrong. You know, you have seen the outcome, and you refuse to repeat it. This saves you years of wasted effort. It spares you unnecessary pain. It gives you the strength to say no to distractions and yes to discipline. And discipline is where dreams are built. Dreams are fragile when they are only ideas. They live in your mind full of hope but easily broken by fear, doubt, or laziness. But when you back them with discipline, they harden into reality. Mistakes teach you what discipline looks like. They show you the cost of ignoring it. They reveal the danger of delay, the trap of comfort, the emptiness of excuses. And when you see these clearly, you understand that discipline is not punishment. It is protection. It is the shield that guards your vision from the mistakes that steal it away. Every time you choose discipline, you strengthen your future. You prove to yourself that you can be trusted. And self-trust is one of the most powerful forms of confidence you can possess. It is not about believing that nothing will go wrong. It is about believing that when things go wrong, you will not collapse. You will not abandon yourself. You will not repeat what you already know leads to regret. That belief makes you unstoppable. But this confidence does not appear overnight. It is built choice by choice, mistake by mistake, lesson by lesson. It is built when you fall but refuse to stay down. It is built when you see others stumble and decide to walk more carefully. It is built when you resist the easy path because you know where it ends. This is how strength is formed, through awareness, through resilience, through the daily application of wisdom. And soon you realize something profound. Life has not become easier, but you have become stronger. The same challenges that once crushed you now sharpen you. The same temptations that once trapped you now pass by unnoticed. The same mistakes that once defined you now serve as reminders of how far you have risen. That realization is freedom. Freedom not because you escaped difficulty, but because you mastered it. This mastery is available to you every single day. It does not require perfection. It requires humility. It requires discipline. It requires the courage to take mistakes seriously and the strength to act differently because of them. If you do this, your future will not be a repeat of your past. It will be a reflection of the wisdom you chose to live by. Wisdom lived out becomes a force that nothing can take from you. It cannot be stolen, it cannot be destroyed, and it cannot be faked. Once you embody the lessons life has given, they become a part of who you are. They guide your decisions, shape your habits, and protect your future. Mistakes that once threatened to break you become scars of strength, reminders of what you overcame, proof that you are not the same person you used to be. These scars are not signs of weakness. They are evidence of resilience, of courage, of growth. They are your trophies of transformation. There is something unshakable about living with this kind of awareness. You stop rushing. You stop chasing illusions. You stop falling into the same traps because you see them for what they are. Life becomes clearer, not because it is easier, but because your mind is no longer clouded by denial or distraction. You begin to notice patterns before they repeat. You begin to sense danger before it appears. You begin to trust yourself on a deeper level because you know you have learned and you know you will act differently this time. This trust in yourself is priceless. Without it, you hesitate, you doubt, you second guess every decision. But with it, you move forward with conviction. Even when the path is uncertain, you carry a calm strength because you know you are not walking blind. You carry the wisdom of every lesson you've absorbed, and that wisdom becomes your compass. With it, you no longer need to rely on luck, approval, or chance. You have something stronger, you have direction, and direction, when combined with discipline, will take you further than talent ever could. Talent fades if it is not refined. Dreams die if they are not protected. Opportunities vanish if they are not recognized. This is why learning from mistakes is the most powerful advantage you can carry. It sharpens your talent, it strengthens your dreams, and it opens your eyes to opportunities others miss. Where most see a wall, you see a doorway. Where most see failure, you see a warning. Where most see an ending, you see a chance to begin again with more wisdom than before. And in this shift lies the heart of transformation. You stop fearing mistakes because they no longer control you. You respect them, you learn from them, and you rise above them. That mindset alone separates you from the masses. Most people waste years avoiding pain, avoiding change, avoiding growth. But you are different. You are willing to face what others run from. You are willing to see what others ignore. You are willing to act where others remain frozen. That willingness is your superpower. With it, you are no longer a victim of circumstances. You are no longer a prisoner of your past. You are no longer a follower of destructive patterns. You are the author of your own story, the builder of your own future, the leader of your own destiny. And with every choice you make, you write proof that mistakes will not define you. They will shape you, refine you, and strengthen you, but they will never own you. This is what makes your journey unstoppable. It is not built on perfection. It is built on wisdom. It is built on resilience. It is built on the refusal to let mistakes go to waste. And as long as you keep choosing to learn, you will keep choosing to rise.